Holly, hello. I'm a Refashionista Sherry, and can you believe that I made this easy breezy summer set from a too big jumpsuit and a much too small t-shirt? That is a brand new tutorial that's coming right at you, along with a whole bunch of my absolute favorite sizzling summer Refashionista DIYs that you can make using items you already have in your closet. So put on your Refashionista thinking cap and let's get making.
For this quick and easy project, all you need is a jumpsuit that has sleeves and is a little bit too big for you, plus a t-shirt that is too small for you. And of course, the very first thing you need to do is chop your jumpsuit in half. So you want to cut it to a shirt length that you are happy with, as well as make sure that on the bottom you have enough to create a waistband. I'm cutting mine right in between that third and second last button there because I want to keep the pockets intact for my lounge pants. Then you want to grab the top, and you're basically just going to be combining the top and the t-shirt together. So you're going to make a funky mashup shirt. And I've made so many of these. I love them all so much. And they're so simple. And I will link down below to the full free tutorial for how to make this. But you see, you need the sides of the top with the sleeves and the center part with the collar and the graphic of the t-shirt. And then you're just going to stitch them together. Next up, of course, we have to make those comfy lounge pants. And for this, all I'm going to do is fold over the top to create my waistband tunnel and then stitch that, leaving a spot open, of course, so I can put my elastic through to create my comfy waistband. And then it's all done. And I just created some amazing comfy pants.
This came out so much cuter than I thought it was going to. I was a little bit concerned when I was chopping the bottoms and noticing just how loosey-goosey, big and baggy they were going to be. But you know what? That's fine. They're kind of like Hammer Time pants, right? Which I'm a Gen X, so they're cool. And it is a very light and airy outfit to wear for the hot weather. Absolutely perfect. And it also goes wonderfully with my oldie but goodie faux flower embellished sunglasses. I made these back in 2013, and as you can see, they are still going strong. So I think it's time that we revisit some of my absolute favorite sizzling summer refashions. Let's dive right in.
We're kicking off this compilation with stellar summer accessories. And of course, we're going to start with those fab faux flower sunglasses. And all you need is a pair of old sunglasses, some faux flowers, nail polish, and some sturdy glue. I did not want to have to hold my sunglasses in place, so I taped them to my table. And then just to fancy them up a little bit more, I painted them with some fantastic gold nail polish. Once that was done, I laid out my faux flowers in the order I wanted to stick them on, and then I just stuck them on. And I actually had more faux flowers in my stash, so I stuck those onto these plain flip-flops to make some adorable flip-flops for myself. For this quick and easy Refashionista project, all you need is a funky old vintage scarf that is large enough to wrap across your body, plus an old bed sheet or a piece of fabric that is about the same size as your vintage scarf. Because I'm using an old bed sheet, the first thing I have to do is chop off the elastic around the outside of the fabric. Depending on if your bed sheet is made along the grain of the fabric, you may be able to simply rip the elastic off of the edge. And if you can do that, it makes life a lot easier. Next, you want to lay your bed sheet or large piece of fabric on a flat surface, place the scarf on top, and then cut the bed sheet to the size of the scarf. Next, grab an oversized t-shirt and center it on top of the scarf and the piece of fabric. Next, you want to grab your pins and simply mark the sides of the neckline. Now, because the t-shirt is stretchy and this scarf is not so stretchy, I'm going to be a little bit more generous here with my neckline, and I'm going to mark it right at the edge of the t-shirt neckline here. Now we can move on and mark the underarm seam of the t-shirt onto the scarf and fabric as well. Now I'm going to be quite generous here because I want my top to fit more like a tunic or a beach cover-up. If you'd like your top to be more fitted, simply mark closer to the edge of the t-shirt, and when you're stitching, then follow that line and you'll have a more fitted look. And then go repeat your same marks on the other side of your scarf and fabric. So first I'm going to stitch the top part, and I'm going to sew from one of my neckline pins to the edge and a little bit down to the side here to create the top of my top, and then I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Once I have the top seams done, then all I have to do is stitch down from my underarm seams on both sides, and my fab little tunic top will be complete. Once you have it all stitched together, trim off any excess fabric and then flip it right side out and enjoy your fancy new tunic top.
Throw it over your swimsuit or knot the side and pop it on with some trousers.
Next, let's make some easy breezy DIY tops.
Good morning. Are you totally digging my fancy thrifted nightie?
Yeah, so am I, but you know, I think it is much too pretty to simply wear to bed. So today, I'm going to show you how to transform those fancy thrifted nighties into something fit to wear outside. Just gonna, go get dressed now though, so, okay.
To transform a nightie into a top, all you need is a t-shirt that has the length that you want, your scissors, and your sewing gear. So first, flip your nightie inside out, lay it on a flat surface, put the t-shirt on top with the collar and shoulder seams lined up, then use that t-shirt to chop your nightie to your desired length, plus a couple of centimeters for seam allowance. Then all you have to do is fold up the raw edge and give it a nice clean hem, and your top is finished. Refashioning does not have to be difficult to achieve fabulous results.
Yeah? Oh, yeah? Oh, just a sec. Hey, today Sherry's going to show you how to transform like shoulder pad 1980s office lady blouse into a really cute pussy bow tie neck top for, spring and summer weather. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
For this oh so adorable, quick and easy project, all you need is your fabulously patterned blouse, scissors, and your sewing gear. So your first step is to flip the blouse inside out, and if, like mine, it has crazy huge shoulder pads, go ahead and remove them. Next, fold the blouse in half with the shoulder seams and underarm seams lined up and lay it on a flat surface. Now you could simply eyeball it and chop the sleeves to your desired length, or you can grab a blouse that already has short sleeves, or even a t-shirt will do, and use it as a template. Just make sure that those shoulder seams and underarm seams are lined up and that you give yourself a couple of centimeters for hemming and seam allowance. Next, grab the ends of the chopped sleeves and open them up, remove the cuffs, and you're ready to get started making your tie. Now chop the remaining fabric into strips. Mine are about 10 centimeters wide, but you can do them any width that you want. It just all depends on how long you want your final tie to be and also how wide. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch all of these together in a long line. Once you have all of your fabric pieces sewn together into a super long strip, then go ahead and fold it in half with right sides facing. Give it a quick press with the iron to hold it in place. Trim off any excess bloopy bits and stitch it into a super long tube. Flip your tie right side out, stitch up those open ends, and get ready to stitch it onto your blouse. Grab your tie, center it on the back of the neckline of the blouse, and then go ahead and stitch them together. La la! How totally, awesomely easy. I mean, time consuming, but at the end of the day, pretty darn easy to create this groovy tie neck blouse. So this one doesn't really need a lot of explanation, I don't think. I've had this tank top like literally for years. I wore it when I was pregnant, and my kiddo is, you know, a preteen now, so that's a long time. Yeah, so I've just I put it on and I pinned these nice bright green shoulder pads in a hopefully bustier type of area, and I'm gonna sew them on and see what it looks like. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty easy one. It's really hilariously awesome, and these actually still, I didn't stitch the top, so I can use them as pockets, which, I mean, come on, it's just a really fun shirt now. This is a little bit too tight. Like, it's just that bit uncomfortably tight across the chest, and, you know, the buttons are pulling a little bit. So today, we're going to upsize and embellish this in the absolute easiest, simplest, quickest way possible, because I want to wear this, and I'm all about doing things the easy way. So let's get making. For this oh-so-quick and terribly simple project, all you need is your blouse or top that needs upsizing, and of course, some kind of fabric or lace or trim to use to upsize it. All right, so I have my top totally unbuttoned and pretty much inside out, and now I'm simply going to chop out these side seams from the bottom hem all the way through the sleeve cuff here. So the sides are going to be totally open. All right, so both sides are totally chopped open. Now I'm simply going to grab my lace and pop it on the bottom here of one of the sleeve cuffs, and then just stitch it all the way down to the bottom hem, and then repeat that with this side on this side of the blouse, and then repeat the whole thing on the other side. Here is a quick Refashionista tip. Now, if you're not paying attention, it is very easy to stitch this to the wrong side. So always make sure that you are stitching your upsizing side panels to the correct areas. I do this so many times where I stitch it here, and then for some reason my brain, you know, stops working, and then I stitch the other side to the opposite sleeve, and that is not okay because you gotta unpick it. So yeah, just make sure you pay attention to that. This absolutely, I think, has to go around the bottom hem, and of course the sleeve cuffs as well, because how adorable that is going to look. So cute. I just want to show you something. So 99% of my thread here and here, I have lights and darks nicely separated in these cutlery holders. There's a quick tip for you. Cutlery holders are great for holding thread, and pedicure toe separators are perfect for bobbins. Anyway, so 99% of this thread here is still the thread I got almost a decade ago in Germany from a business that was going out of business. It was an upholstery business, and I got like 2 kilograms of thread for about the equivalent of about $3 from them, and it's still in use, so that is awesome. So the great thing about this very vintage upholstery thread is it is super duper strong, because it was used for, you know, covering sofas and chairs and doing upholstery. But I don't know, I'm thinking which one matches better here. I think this one for sure. So let's go with this one and go stitch on this lace. Alrighty, so I have the side panels done, and as you saw, it now fits me perfectly with plenty of room, and the adorable sleeve cuffs are done, and the bottom hem. So now we can go try it on and style it up.
Another absolutely adorable upsizing success, and I think that this trim on here just really elevates this whole look. And of course, like, how cool is that, right? And it's almost, I got a little bit of air conditioning in my armpits now because it's lace. Anyway.
Let's refashion some one-piece wonders.
This is what I thought I was getting, this lovely crochet top. And according to the measurements, I did get the right size. That should fit me. And this is what arrived. And if it's up close to the camera, it looks okay, right? It looks like, hey, that should fit. But if I do this, what is this covering? What is this covering? It actually fits, like, width-wise. It's the length-wise that is the big issue. And I did measure it, and like the website measurements are so off. I did send an email, but didn't get a response, so whatever. Yeah, good thing, I guess, because now we get to do another upsizing tutorial.
For this hopefully bodaciously boho Refashionista project, all you need is your top that is too short and a funktastic vintage tablecloth, or, you know, enough fabric that's gonna wrap around your body to make the bottom of the dress.
So let's just make sure that I have enough fabric here. I'm pretty sure I do, though. Okay, so I have decided which way I want this to be, and I'm going to, it's like a rectangular tablecloth, so I'm gonna have most of the length going around my body. And I mean, clearly, yeah, I think I have more than enough to wrap around my body here. And that top ends about there, so go like that. Yeah, oh yeah, that's perfect. And the length is gonna be perfect. If I wanna chop it and hem it, I have plenty of fabric. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take these two ends of the longest sides here, the two ends, and just stitch them together to make a ginormous tube of fabric.
So I have my giant tube all stitched together now, and as you can see here, I straight stitched it, and then I zigzagged over my straight stitch, and then I chopped the edge here with my pinking shears because it had those two really thick end seams, like the finished edges, and I didn't want those, and I don't want it to fray, of course, so I used my pinking shears, and then a little bit of overkill here, but I did another zigzag stitch all the way down near to the edge here to really make sure it doesn't fray, because this is quite a delicate vintage fabric and I just really don't want it falling apart when I'm out and about. All right, so now I have to figure out how to put this on top of this to create, you know, a dress. And I'm really not sure if I want to keep all of these little floofy hanging yarn bits. I mean, it is super boho looking, but I don't know if I like them. I think I'm going to put it together and then I'm going to decide, because these are really easy to just carefully cut off at the end if I don't like them. But in order to do that, I can't just flip things inside out and do a quick stitch, right? I have to put this together with the right sides facing out, because if I do it with everything folded over, then I really risk the chance of having some or most of these yarn bits flip up and then get trapped in the seam, and then, you know, that's going to look terrible. So what I'm going to do is first gather up and stitch the edge of my tablecloth tube so it matches up with the width of the top here, and then it'll be a lot easier to, you know, simply stitch it together. So let's figure out how we're going to do this now. So as you know, I really like doing pin tucks, but if you want to know how to gather fabric with your machine, I will link down below to my dress tutorial that has that tutorial in it. But I think I'm going to do pin tucks here, and it's just the easiest for me to do. So I'm just going to do a bunch of pin tucks around the top here as evenly as I can until the tablecloth matches the width of the top. and then I'm going to go stitch it all together, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put it all together. Okay, I have all of my lovely little pin tucks stitched into place here, and it appears that it is a similar width to my top, so now I have to put them together. And again, because it has all of these floofy yarn threads hanging down here, I am not sure how I'm going to get this all together, but I'm going to pop the top of my skirt into the shirt like so. Okay, and also something else that I kind of didn't take into consideration was the bottom part of the shirt is definitely, you know, a zigzag shape here. So it has to be far enough down on the skirt that I can stitch it all together, right? Because I want to follow the diamond shaped bottom here of each of these crochet squares. But you know what? I think I actually managed to get it together. So that didn't take very long at all. That's great. Now I'm going to go pin this together, stitch it together very, very carefully, and then we're going to see what it looks like. Okay, this actually worked, and it looks totally freaking adorable. So I cannot wait to try it on. But I did also take a bit of time, and I hemmed up the bottom edge here, and then, I don't know, it matches so well. I don't know if you can see. I added some lovely lace trim all around the bottom hem, and you know what, guys? It is now time to go and try it on and style it up. This came out too sweet and cute. It is like I'm getting cavities just wearing this right now. I definitely feel like a sweetie petite woodland bohemian fairy.
Oh, hello, me little puppets. You've just caught me making a fresh pot of tea. Anyway, today, Refashionista Sherry is going to show you how to transform and upcycle a frumpy vintage nightgown into an absolutely adorable playsuit. Or is it a romper? Let me know down below. What are you calling it these days? Is it a playsuit? Is it a romper? I don't know. Anyway, Refashionista Sherry is going to show you how to make one of those today.
For this quick and easy, oh so adorable project, all you need is a vintage nightie that fits you loosely. Plus, if you already have a playsuit like this one here, you can use this as the template. But today, I'm going to show you how to transform the vintage nightie into a playsuit using a pair of comfy PJ lounge pants here as the template. So you need your vintage nightie, your lounge pants, and your sewing gear.
Editing Sherry here. When you are searching for your vintage nightie at the thrift shop, make sure you get one that has buttons or a zipper so you can easily get in and out of your finished romper.
So now if you don't have a romper or a playsuit that you can easily use for a template, then you can still make this using this method. So basically you want to put your nightie on inside out, and to find where you want the kind of crotch gusset area, just kind of, you know, fold it between your legs like so. That's so attractive. And then you want to grab a pin. And because, I mean, if I stand up straight, that's super duper tight. So I'm going to go a little bit lower and pinch the fabric out. Just pin my pin there to mark the general area. Check that that's okay. Yes, that's nice. And now we can move on to the next step. So with the nightie still inside out and your pin in the position, you want to fold it in half lengthwise as evenly as possible, making sure that you have the underarm seams lined up, the side seams lined up as close as you can get it, and that it is definitely as smooth and wrinkle free as you can get it. And I think you can see here is my pin mark. And now I am ready to grab my template lounge pants. So I now have my lounge pants, and they are also folded totally equally in half with all of the waistband, the side seams, the inner leg seams, everything lined up. And now I'm going to line up the crotch gusset area of the lounge pants with my pin, like so. Maybe do it a little bit lower just for safety. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now, because I don't want this to be kind of short-waisted, I mean, it's going to be kind of blousey and loose as it is, I think I'm not going to go by this waistband here. I'm going to cut a little bit lower from the waistband just to be extra sure that I'm not cutting off too much, right? I can always cut more if I need to. So I'm just going to cut out a kind of gentle semicircle here, plus of course follow the line here to chop out the area that will make the legs of the shorts. Alrighty, it is looking as it should look. We have kind of this keyhole area looking thingy here. So we're going to leave this round keyhole opening, and right now we're just going to stitch straight down to create the bottom part of our shorts legs. Okay, so now I have the bottom of my legs all stitched together. Let's close up this ginormous hole in the center. Okay, so you want to flip everything over so you have the side seams now facing up. So you have one leg side seam facing up, the other leg side seam facing the bottom. And the easiest way to do that is to take these two freshly stitched seams, pop them together, and then flip it over, give it a good shake, shake, shake. Alrighty, so we have one of the side seams on the top, one of the side seams on the bottom, and if I grab this top leg, there we have the wonderful open crotch area. Now all we have to do is grab these sides here, like so, and create kind of a half moon shape, and then go stitch that together. Alternatively, and this is how I always like to do it, I grab one leg and I actually pop it into the other leg, making sure that those seams that I just stitched are lined up together, as well as the side seams. And as always, shake it all down. And then I simply go and stitch this kind of V shape together. So just along the V shape here. And look at that. That definitely looks like two short legs and a very lovely, perfect looking gusset area. Now, something you may run into if your fabric is very loose and airy like mine is here, is you kind of have this, I don't know what to call this, kind of a little nipple thing sticking out here when you stitched those V's together. And the easiest way to get rid of that is to simply kind of start just a little bit down from where it is sticking out here and just stitch a very gentle curving line up. Okay, so I've done my really quick stitch here. So now I am just going to chop off this excess nipple fabric and sorted, solved. Let's flip it right side out and try it on.
This is one of the most amazingly comfortable things I have ever made, ever, and I'm definitely going to be on the hunt for more of these loose and easy breezy house dress nighties, particularly ones with a zip in the front, because I think that would be a lot easier than having a fight with these decorative buttons here when you gotta go, you know. But still, this is adorable and fantastic, and it looks so awesome if it is belted and accessorized as well. So I mean, this isn't just for lounging around the house. I'm thinking I'm gonna wear this outside as well. I scored this absolutely gorgeous vintage super cutie patootie house dress, and we're gonna transform it today into something to wear to the Barbie movie. So let's get making! For this Barbie-rific project, all you need is your adorably pink, slightly oversized house dress. And let's just do a little bit of vintage tag appreciation here. Look at this Mr. Robert, or maybe it was Monsieur Robert. I just love vintage tags so much, like the fancy writing and really the bare minimum of information and just one tag. We don't need to have 500 tags, do we? I like this. It is easy to understand and straight to the point. And it's just really cool looking too. Monsieur Robert. Okay, so clearly the first thing we have to do is cut this to the length that we want our top to have. And I did put this on, but unfortunately realized that the pockets start quite high up here. And so I desperately want to keep the pockets as they are. So I'm just going to chop on through above the top seam here of the pockets. And then I might have to add some bottom fabric to my top. We shall see once it's all chopped up. Okay, so my top part is chopped off, but there are some rather large spaces here in between the buttons that I don't think need to be there. And because I can get this over my head without having to undo any of the buttons, I am just going to carefully stitch this stitch this button placket all together, so then it just isn't going to be flippy flapping around and, you know, showing my bits and bobs to the world. So I'm going to go do that, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do with the bottom. Okay, so I have this all nicely stitched together. It is not going to open up. And as I was stitching, I saw that not only are the buttons loose here, but they're boring. So I went and grabbed my little container full of cutie patootie buttons, and I actually did a poll about this on my community tab. And here we go. We're going to be going with these strawberries because how adorable. How totally adorable is that going to be? So I'm going to go switch out the buttons, and then I think I'm just going to bind the bottom hem with some of this lovely white lace, and then we'll come back and see the results. So the bottom hem is all bound up with that pretty vintage lace, and check out those adorable strawberry buttons. I really don't think this top could get any cuter, do you? So just like I did with the top, I went ahead and stitched down the button placket so it's not going to open anymore, because again, those spaces between the buttons were fine for a house dress, but not so great for something you're going to wear outside. Okay, so I think, as I said, I'm going to chop off a generous portion of the bottom here. I'm going to go just below the final button because my applique ends here. So I think that should give more than enough space. Plus, this area here should give me plenty of space to create my waistband. So I'm just going to chop this. Okay, so I have the bottom chopped off, and I did actually take a little bit of extra time and I replaced the buttons on the skirt with these cute little flowers that I had in my stash that I think they match pretty good. Okay, now let's work on the waistband. So here is that piece of the bottom that I chopped off, and I'm going to add it to the top here, but clearly it is too wide because it was from the bottom of this skirt. So first I'm going to measure the width of the top of my skirt and then chop this piece to the right size. Okay, so I now have my top piece chopped to the right size and stitched into a lovely tube.
And because this was actually the bottom hem, you can see here I left this end open, so I'm just going to use this as my elastic waist casing, and then I do not have to create another one, and it's already perfectly stitched and super duper even. Now anytime you can do this, absolutely do. Whenever you can use an existing seam or an existing button placket or an existing zipper when you're refashioning, absolutely do. It makes life so much easier. And you can also see here, these were the side seams, but now they're just going to maybe be a little bit of a detail on the back because I'm going to line up this at the center of the back so it's not showing in the front, and then in the front I'm just going to have a nice flat surface. Also, by chopping it the way I did, I have the added bonus of getting rid of this super thick excess button placket here, and maybe I can use this fabric for something else, maybe like a little pocket or something. We'll see, but let's go stitch this on and then we can finish off the skirt. So as always, I'm going to put my skirt bottom and the top of the skirt together with the right sides facing and the raw edges lined up perfectly. And I got to make sure that that seam, yes, is lined up with the back center. And now I'm just going to go stitch this together. Okay, so the waistband is now all stitched on, and I just have to say that I am proud of myself with this one. First of all, for figuring out how to, use the bottom as the waistband, but also for my measuring skills on this one, which seem to be absolutely perfect. And I did actually get this in the center somehow. Usually I have it measured, it is centered, but then when I sew it, it ends up like way over here or something, but whatever, I still wear the thing because who cares? Anyway, right? Perfection is the enemy of good. And that is true. That is very true. So let's flip this up and see. Perfect. This is wonderful and it looks great, but I think what I'm going to do, because this is pretty wide up here and then the elastic casing is like way up there, and that might puff out, right? So I am going to fold this down like so and not cover up the applique, of course. So then my waistband is going to be a little bit lower, and then this part is going to just be a nice little, extra security here at the waist, I guess, to cover up any seams, or if I, eat a big meal, maybe that will be helpful. Anyway, so I'm going to fold this down nicely, press it, and then I shall stitch it on, and then we're going to add the elastic. Okay, so I folded down that excess waistband area and stitched it all the way around on the front. And then I realized, hey, you know what I can do? I can simply fold the top part here where I'm going to put the elastic to the inside and then stitch that all down, and then I will effectively encase this raw fraying edge here so it can't fray anymore. Plus it does give it a really nice look on the exterior side. So that's what I'm going to do now. And the elastic waist is in and it is super duper comfortable. And then I also took a little bit more time and I bound up the bottom hem with some more of the vintage lace that I had used on the top. So now we can try it all on and style it all up. How adorably awesome did this come out? Even though I had to tweak my method and design a little bit because, I really was looking forward to making trousers or a pair of pedal pushers, but whatever, it still came out absolutely perfectly perfect. Even though I say perfection is the enemy of good, in this case, this is the most perfect outfit to wear to the Barbie movie. And my adorable strawberry earrings match my buttons, so I'm very pleased with that. And as I was going through all of these things, I really had a Refashionista brain explosion moment and figured, you know what? I can take these tops that are,
you know, kind of short on me, plus the knit shorts, and put them all together and make an adorable romper. So that's what we're going to do today, and let's just go make it.
So I think I'm going to start with the shorts, and I'm guessing you could probably do this with, you know, just about anything. It doesn't have to be knit. You could do it with jersey shorts and t-shirts, or, you know, just cotton shorts and shirts. I don't think there's a reason it has to be knit or crochet, but I digress. I'm talking too much again. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is decide how I want them to be layered out here. And I think I want to try to use this part, this bottom part of all of these ones here, because you can see they're all the same, right? It's all identical, but they're all different colors. So I think if I stitch these together and then stitch it on here, it then is going to make it long enough to go on my torso. And then I should be able to simply attach this to the top, and then I should have a very cute little romper. So that is my idea. Now let's go see if it's actually going to work when I put it into practice. Right, so these are the three that I have definitely decided I want to use for the torso area of the romper. So clearly the first thing I have to do is remove this bottom part from the very top part, and I think it's going to be quite easy, and I don't think it's going to fray, because if you can see here how it's all attached here, I think I should be able to just really carefully and slowly chop off this little connector area here, and then it should hopefully keep this finished edge here, and then I can stitch everything together. So that's what I'm going to do now with all three of these. I'm simply going to carefully chop out all of these little connector pieces here. And look at that, it's not fraying at all. How awesome is that? All right, I'm going to go finish off the other two tops and this one as well. Right, so I just had a thought that I should put on the top, put on the bottoms, and then measure the space in between, right? Because then I will know how much panel fabric that I need. All right, so I've got to give myself a little bit for seam allowance, so I'll go right there, and then go to here, and it's about 15 centimeters, pretty much exactly. So I definitely don't think I'm going to need 3 panels, but whatever, I'll use it for something else in the future. Right, so now that I know I probably only need 2 panels, I have to decide which ones I want to actually use. But you know what? I think I'm going to do a poll, and I'm going to let you help me decide. So decision has been made, and I'm going to go with the terracotta and the cream color, because look at this. Look at this. It is pretty much the identical colors here, so that is perfect. Okay, so I have this one inside out, this one right side out, and I'm simply going to put them together with the right sides facing and the edges all nicely lined up. And now I'm going to go stitch these chopped edges together. And when they're stitched together and I flip it right side out, everything will look lovely. So let's go do that. So just before I started stitching, I had a thought, and I ended up putting this together again with the right sides facing, but I put one of the chopped raw edges together with the finished edge that was already in existence there. So this was the bottom of this top, and then this edge here was the edge that I chopped, put them together, and it came out very, very perfectly, I think. And let's just flip it around. You can see, look at how perfect that is. Side seams are all lined up, and this is so easy to work with actually, because you can stretch it. If one is a bit shorter than the other, you simply stretch it and it matches up. And then when you wash it again, because sometimes, you know, when you're dealing with knits, it does get a little bit wavy here and causes what I believe is known as a lettuce hem. You just wash it in warm water and it makes everything constrict back onto itself, and it's fine once again. But because I did the finished edge to the chopped edge, what I'm going to do now is fold that finished edge over like so, and then stitch it down once again, just because this seam is a bit bulky because it is quite thick fabric we're working with. And how awesome does that look? And I think it is pretty much the perfect length to fill in that 15 centimeter gap. Plus I definitely have a couple centimeters for seam allowance. And as I just mentioned, you see, it's kind of gone wavy like the lettuce edge here, but I'm not worried about that at all because as soon as I wash it in warm water, it's going to constrict back up onto itself and lie flat once again. So now it's time to, what should we do first, the top or the bottom? Let's put the top on here. And I think I'm going to do the cream to the blue. I think that's going to look perfect. So I'm going to flip this inside out just the same way I did before, and then pop this inside with those side seams lined up and the right sides facing like so. And now I'm just going to go stitch this together. And the top is now stitched on and looking lovely. And once again, I am going to repeat myself so people don't get angry at me in the comments. It will be washed and this is going to tighten up back onto itself. It just stretches out when you're sewing. And again, washing it in warm water gets everything back to being tight. It's the same thing if you wear a t-shirt and it gets stretched out, then you wash it and it goes back into shape. So now it is time to add the lovely bottom. And how are we going to do that? Well, exactly the same way we have done everything else. I'm simply going to flip this inside out. And then I popped the shorts inside, and so we have the right sides facing as always, and luckily this actually has a drawstring on it, which makes life so much easier because I can just line up the drawstring with the V neckline here, and then I know that it's definitely going to be straight. So it also has an elastic here in the waistband, so I'm going to have to really carefully be pushing this elastic down inside while I stitch these two together because I really don't want to catch the elastic. So wish me luck, fingers crossed it's going to work out. Now I'm going to go stitch this first with a straight stitch, then as always with a tight wide zigzag to give it that bit of stretch needed, as well as to help prevent fraying because I don't have a fancy serger machine.
I have shocked myself, and I know I've been saying that quite often at the ends of my videos, but I think it's because I've been doing a lot of new to me things that I've really never attempted before, and this was yet another one, sewing with so much crochet and knit, and look, nothing is bumpy lettuce hem, nothing is wavy here, it's lovely. It is, I feel very secure in this, which is wonderful. I don't feel like I'm spilling out everywhere. It's just freaking adorable, isn't it?
And last but certainly not least, some cool refashions for hot days.
We're starting off with my quick and easy patchwork cutoffs.
So the very first thing you need to do is mark the length that you would like your cutoffs to be. Now, I like to do this with my jeans on, but I will show you another method as soon as we're done with this one. So first, you just want to grab a pin. Now, I like mine to kind of be above my knee and below my thigh area here. So I am simply going to pinch my jeans and pull it away from my skin and then pin it so I know exactly. Yeah, that looks about perfect right there. An alternative way to find the perfect length for your cutoffs is to grab a pair of shorts that you actually like the length of and lay it on top with the waistbands lined up and then mark with your pin. And it looks like I actually did a pretty great job here marking my jeans. Next, you want to fold your jeans in half as evenly as possible. So make sure you've pulled that crotch seam together with both legs and the waistbands are lined up evenly as well. And then chop on through at your mark. Now, of course, you can buy iron-on patches and simply arrange them and go ahead and iron them on. But I prefer to decorate my cutoffs with all of the little scraps that I've been saving from my other Refashionista projects. So I have found a bunch of floral scraps, a polka dot scrap, and a whole bunch of lacy bits. So I'm going to cut them all to size and then arrange them where I would like them to be. So you can see here I have pulled out my pocket just to make life a little bit easier while I'm stitching, and I chopped all of my little scrappy bits to size and have pinned them in place. Now, if you want to do this a totally no-sew way, you can simply stick all of your patches on with fabric glue. Super simple. Now, if I'm stitching on patches that need to be very neat and tidy, and I absolutely have to follow the outside lines of the patches, then I will do it either by hand stitching or very, very slowly and carefully with my machine. However, with this kind of patchy patchwork look here, I really do like the look of freehand stitching and just simply zigzagging back and forth and up and down and all around. I call it doodle stitching, but the proper term, I believe, is freehand stitching, and I just love the final result so much. When I'm freehand stitching, I really like to use a contrasting thread so it really stands out and you can absolutely see the lovely little doodles that are all over the patches. How fantastic does that look? These came out so much better than I even thought they would. And here's a quick tip. To achieve a really nice fray on the edge of my denim, I found that simply tossing them in the washing machine really does help encourage this fray. And then all I do is chop off the little threads and it looks absolutely perfect here. Now, I realize not everybody is going to like this look, and you don't have to. That is absolutely the beauty of refashioning and upcycling. You can look in your own wardrobe, find something that you haven't worn for a while or you really just aren't feeling anymore, and then transform it quite easily into something that is exactly your taste and style. And really quite happily then wear it out. And you know what? You don't have to worry about what other people think because it is your taste and style and you feeling great in what you're wearing that matters. For this rockin' warm weather refashion, you'll need a loose-fitting, somewhat long dress, plus something to use for your waistband for however we're going to be doing the bottom part here. And I'm thinking I might use this elastic because not only is it super stretchy and comfy, it's also perfectly pink, just like this. And of course, your sewing gear. So of course, my first step is to mark the top part to my desired length, plus a couple of centimeters of seam allowance. And you can either do this by popping it on and then popping a pin in there, or using an existing shirt that you like the length of for a template. And now I'm just going to chop that to size. Okay, so my shirt is done. I simply chopped it and then gave it a nice clean hem. So now it's time to work on the funky, adorable little matching shorts. Okay, so I now have my chopped bottom of the dress laid flat inside out. And you can see here on the sides, it has these little splits on both sides of the bottom of the chopped bottom of the dress. So I think because I may need some extra fabric at the end of all of this, I'm just going to chop straight on through and then I'll have these two pieces of extra fabric. Okay, so now I have to make the legs of my shorts. And to do that, I need 2 tubes. So I'm going to fold my bottom fabric in half, like so, and then I'm simply going to chop it evenly in half. And I think I'm going to chop straight through the embroidery here as opposed to these side seams, and then I should be able to make 2 even-ish tubes. So now I have 2 pieces and one side has a seam and the other side is open. So now I'm just going to go stitch that open edge closed so I have 2 tubes. Okay, so I have my 2 fabric tubes here and I have one right side out and I have one inside out. So I'm going to take the one that is right side out and pop it inside, the one that is inside out. So I will have the right sides facing. And I also want the embroidery here to be lined up together. And I'm actually making this so the embroidery is going to be on the outside of each leg, because I think that would be a bit awkward if it was on the interior gussety crotch area. Okay, so you can see here I grabbed a loose fitting pair of lounge pants and folded them in half, pulled out the crotch area so it's in the front, and now I'm just going to line that up with the hopefully soon to be front of my shorts here, and I'm going to use this as a template to chop out the crotch gussety area of my short leg tubes. Okay, I now have something that looks like this, but when I flip it around like so, I have a really lovely big V shape here. Now I'm simply going to go and stitch these two V's together. So you can see here my V's are all stitched together, and when I pull one side out of the other side, we should hopefully have something that looks like a pair of shorts. Let's see. We do! La la! Look at that. Perfect. Perfect shorts. So now I'm going to go try these on, because as I said before, I think I may need to use my chopped fabric here and possibly add a little bit to the sides. I'm not sure. I'm going to go try these on and we'll see. So my suspicions about the size of these were absolutely correct. And yeah, they are incredibly tight. So I am absolutely going to take my excess fabric and add a couple of side panels to each side here. And if you're unsure how to add side panels to shorts and trousers, I will link down below to my loads of different videos that show exactly how to do that for several different fabrics. So I put in my side panels and the shorts fit me so much better now. Plus I hemmed up the raw edges and I added a very, very simple elastic waist to the top. And I think these are totally adorable.
They just look like, oh, it's lounge pants. Whoop-de-friggin' do, right? But look at this. Look what you can do with those boring lounge pants. Let's go do it.
For this super quick and oh so quirky refashion, all you need is your comfy old lounge pants plus a couple of groovy vintage doilies and a length of lace. Can we just talk about how absolutely perfect the colors of these doilies are? Like, that is almost the identical color to the pants, this lovely mustardy color. And yeah, clearly they've been in my stash for a while, so I'm gonna go iron these and then we're going to do the first step. Okay, so I've put on my lounge pants, I have a pin, and I have one of my doilies. Now I'm going to use these as adorable little knee patches to liven up these kind of hideous pants a little bit, or see if it's going to work anyway. So I'm going to just put that in the position where I would like it to be, maybe a little bit lower, and then pin it in place. And now I can use this for the measurement to put the other one on too. So let's go do that. Okay, so I have my lovely doily perfectly pinned in place, and first I was thinking, let's machine stitch it, but it's gonna be a pain, and I really don't want to have to open up the side seam here, so I have decided to simply hand stitch it on. It's super quick and super simple. Now, so I don't stitch through, I've grabbed my little cutting board, and I'm just gonna pop that in between the two layers of fabric, like so, and then that way when I'm stitching I can be sure I'm not going to stitch the front to the back. And my thread here. Now if you are unsure about hand stitching or you really don't know where to begin, I highly recommend purchasing my Sewing Basics ebook. Everything is in there, plus of course it's like ridiculously cheap, and I'm just going to continue stitching this on. And I have both of my funky knee patches on, and they do look oh so funky, I think. Now it is time to add a bit of lace, this lovely lace, to the bottom hem cuffs. So I'm just gonna go stitch this on.
Please do let me know down below which one of those was your absolute favorite. And also, if you're going to go digging in your closet and your drawers this weekend to make some of these. I mean, grab an old pair of flip-flops, glue some stuff to it, and you are now a rockin' refashionista yourself. And you know what? I've been doing this since 2011. Since 2011, I have been sharing my rockin' refashionista brain with everybody. So if you want to learn absolutely everything that is stuck in my refashionista head under my refashionista thinking cap, then pop on over to refashionistasherry.com. How many times can I say refashionista? But we're all refashionistas, right? That's what we do. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag. I think everybody needs their own refashionista thinking cap.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.